This week I'm reviewing the cheapest Toyota available in America. This is the Corolla non-hybrid base LE trim. In today's review, we're gonna see what Toyota's bargain basement model can get you, and make sure to stay to the end because we're gonna look for deals in my area, as well as put this on the spreadsheet to see how it stacks up with other cars I reviewed in 2025. You have a hybrid and a non-hybrid. This being the non-hybrid, has a 2-liter 4-cylinder with 169 horsepower and 151 pound-feet of torque. It's got a unique CVT transmission where it has a true first gear, then it swaps over after that first gear to a more traditional CVT transmission. Fuel economy, I'm getting around 30 miles per gallon in town, but if you're driving mostly on the highway, should be about 40 miles per gallon on the Corolla non-hybrid. The hybrid though does give you available all-wheel drive for an additional $1,400. It doesn't have quite as much peak power with around 135, 134 horsepower or so on the hybrid, but it does give you superior fuel economy. Well over 50 miles per gallon is achievable on the hybrid model. And once we start driving, I'll be able to tell you if you should be going for that hybrid instead of the non-hybrid. Now the looks on the Corolla haven't changed since a mild refresh a couple years ago where they updated the headlights. This one does not have those optional updated daytime running lights. You just have amber turn signals in here, which also act as your daytime running lights. The Corolla LE comes with 16-inch wheels here with steels. With these wheel caps. Now, if you get an SE trim, those will actually come with 18-inch wheels, and I believe the XLE, for example, I remember driving the XLE hybrid, I believe that had 16-inch alloy wheels. And when you see this vehicle from the side, it's definitely on the smaller side here in the United States. We don't get the Yaris anymore that actually slots under this in other markets like Europe and Japan. The back of the Corolla is pretty basic. It's standard exhaust pipe there, LE badge. You know, that's not too bad. Sometimes the manufacturers on their base trims, they don't even give you a badge. So I'll take that. Lifting it, oh wait, there's no lift gate button here. So I have to get out the old key fob, and the key fob is actually how you turn the car on with the, you know, the standard key ignition. All right, is there a key? There's not even a key slot like in the old days that I can see for the key. Luckily there's a button right here, you hold, it will pop the trunk, and you can pop the trunk from the inside as well. As we look at the inside of the Corolla's trunk, it's actually quite big for such a small vehicle. I do have a nice spare tire, which is getting rarer and rarer these days, and the rear seats fold down 60/40, and there's also a nice little lamp in here to see at night. Getting in the back seat of the Corolla, well, I actually have a decent amount of headroom. My head's not touching the roof here. Leg room, it's actually seemingly better here than it is in the hatchback variant of this vehicle. These cloth seats are quite comfy. While I have no vents back here, I do have 2 USB-Cs available, which I think are standard now on the Corolla. I mean, this Corolla I'm in has 0 options other than distributor options like a touchscreen cover, for example. We'll go over that in a little bit. But the door has a nice, really soft armrest here, but what do you expect for a base grade to have a pretty cheap materials here in the back? And I don't think it gets much better even if you opt for more expensive models. But comfort back here is better than you would think for such a small car. All right, no keyless start stop here. So let's go ahead and put in the key old-fashioned style. This is actually how the Corolla hybrid starts too. Except in the Corolla hybrid, you don't feel the engine turning on because it doesn't turn on when the car's on necessarily. The climate control's actually been fantastic in here. Not only is it easy to work with, but the AC's been cold. So I like fan speed control, I like temperature control. Everything's just so simple here. I don't have heated or ventilated seats. It's perfectly fine because cloth does a great job managing temperature changes. Pretty basic rear view mirror here, not auto dimming. I don't even have blind spot monitor on this 25 model unless I get it as an optional package. However, for 2026, it just was announced the day of this recording for the 2026 model year, blind spot monitor is standard across the Toyota Corolla lineup here in the United States. On the base LE model, we have a 4-inch screen here with analog tachometer, heat gauge, and fuel gauge, and speedometer. All that's analog. That is all going away for 2026. They're replacing all of that with a 7-inch digital screen. And then on the top trims, you get a 12-inch digital screen in that area instead of the 7-inch, all right? But for 2024 models, for example, base screen is this 4-inch screen with analog, and then you also have the option of the 7-inch screen on the higher trims. This is still the base screen on the 2026 Corollas. I believe this is an 8-inch screen, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, for example. Android Auto is wireless here. And I can plug in wired with a little USB-C under here. And there's also another USB-C in the armrest. Armrest is actually pretty stiff, while the door armrest has a good amount of cushion in it. In other models, you might see a wireless charger up here. For example, in the XLE or the XSE models, I have a traditional shifter here, and it's pretty fantastic, honestly. I do have a little bit of glossy black around the screen, and that will blind you at times. The steering wheel is pretty basic here, but it doesn't bother me. It's a cheap car. Well, I lost my camera when I said cheap car. The car took offense at that, so sorry, little Corolla. You're not a cheap car. You're just the least expensive car for Toyota here in North America at the time of this recording. All right, so yeah, if you want a leather wrap steering wheel, you're gonna have to get the top of the line grades here for the Corolla. But I do have radar cruise control, lane keep assist. Toyota Safety Sense 3.0 is standard here across the lineup. All right, dash here, soft touch, and then this always gets me. You have hard touch plastic over here for whatever reason, but that's about it. It's a pretty no frills, bare bones, basic, but very easy to work with interior. So let's get on the road. The Corolla sedan is built in Mississippi. The Corolla hybrid sedan, which is the only hybrid version of the Corolla we get. We don't get a like the wagon hybrid at all. We get the hatchback, but the hatchback is this powertrain, not the hybrid powertrain in the United States. Anyways, this one's built in Mississippi. The rest of the Corollas we get in the United States, the hatchback, the GR Corolla, for example, and the sedan hybrid, those are all built in Japan for what it's worth. Also, the camera is mounted here because on the base Corolla LE, you don't have a sunroof. You have to go to the XLE or possibly the SE or XSE models on the hatchback. And I think the mid-grade SE doesn't come with a sunroof either, even though it has bigger wheels and a sportier appearance. I have a couple cup holders here I forgot to mention. I like having auto brake hold. That is standard here. I've been in like $150,000 Audis and they don't have auto brake hold. So that's a nice luxury here that you even get on a car that's costs around $24,000. All right, 0 to 60 here. .63. That's not bad. That's actually not bad at all. There was no torque braking there. That's just a raw 0 to 60 off the brake onto the gas. And the Corolla actually has decent performance in the non-hybrid. The hybrid might be a hair slower technically, but it's better for daily driving. I'll get into that in today's lengthy driving impressions, all right? The Corolla though, it has no driving modes. It's just, you start the car and you're just in whatever it gives you, and that's fine. So, you know, under 9 seconds 0 to 60, I just reviewed a Tucson that costs about 15 grand more than this. And it had way more, you know, I know it's totally different, apples to oranges, but that vehicle was about a 10-second 0 to 60 car, actually maybe even slower. So like this Corolla is actually quite zippy when your foot's down all the way. The problem I have with this Corolla powertrain is that when you're just like keeping up with traffic, going the speed of traffic, the powertrain doesn't give you any gusto at all. You have to really work the gas pedal in here to get the performance, okay? So it's really tucked behind the last 10% of the pedal travel, all right? The rest of the time, it's kind of like, and I'm halfway through the pedal, nothing happened, okay? It's accelerating, but like with 20 horsepower sort of accelerating, okay? Really only way you get any sort of power out of this, like I said, is if the pedals passed about 80 to 90%. And then it wakes up, grabs a gear and goes. So in that regard, it's actually quite responsive, okay? So if I need to get around this truck here, this van, I have to go full pedal everywhere. The Corolla is one of the few vehicles I've driven recently. The Tucson was also like that. I know that's a Hyundai, but that's just what I reviewed recently. It's like, if you want to go anywhere, you have to be 100% pedal down. Otherwise, it's just like the slowest, most unresponsive car ever. All right, so it's funny. This Corolla's, it's just a pedal to the metal sort of car. And it has decent performance when pedal is down, but most of the time, you're not pedaled down all the way, and it's just kind of, it feels sloppy. All right, I'll say that with the powertrain. But the brakes in here are great. I have no issues. The vehicle stomps really well, and the handling, well, it's not best in class. It's not as good as an Elantra. It's not nearly as good as a Civic. It's not as good as a Mazda either, like a Mazda 3. But it feels light in the turns, and there's a good amount of body roll, but I feel like handling here is quite good because this vehicle does feel really, really light, and it is a light car compared to today's standards. All right, so the handling's perfectly fine with me. I'm in a Corolla. I'm not expecting it to cut up the turns here, but I'll try to, I got a green light here. That's the only turns I have in Florida. So into the brakes here. A lot of travel on the brakes, but they're predictable. The tires were squealing in that turn. And then it just holds 6,500 RPM because it's a CVT. So, once you get out of that first gear, and you're hardly ever in that first gear, let me tell you. For example, I guess I'll come to a stop here. And again, the brakes, a lot of travel, but they're very predictable. The brakes, the first gear, it wants to get out of that first gear as fast as possible. Toyota probably programmed it that way to save fuel, all right, and to get better fuel economy, whatever, all right. But it makes for a really dull experience when it shifts out of that first gear as fast as possible. And also when it shifts out of that first gear to the standard CVT that it's connected to, sometimes it's a bit sloppy. Okay, so we're just gonna, it went to, guys, it shifted out of first gear there at like 1,600 RPM. And now I'm in CVT land, which most people is not gonna care about, but it is kind of sloppy. All right, once you're in CVT land, which like I said, you're there 99% of the time. Okay, so fuel economy is about 30 miles per gallon in city, and that's what I'm seeing here. But it doesn't help that I have to mash the pedal if I want to get anywhere in this car. Comfort in here, it's a small car, but I love the comfort. I feel like the Corolla is just like, you don't have to think about anything, and you just get in. It's super basic. I do have a tilting and telescopic steering wheel, by the way, which is great. But like, there's no thought that has to go into this car. Most Hondas are like this as well. You get in, everything's very simple. Even working with this little 4-inch screen back here, I can put a digital speedometer up there I want, but I just keep the fuel economy up. And once you get the proactive driving assist off, turn that off through the menu here, it's fine. This touchscreen, I haven't talked about it. I like the volume knob next to it. Southeast Toyota equipped it with a really expensive screen protector. I want to say that they want to charge over $100 for that. I would try to negotiate that. Like, you can get a screen protector for $10 on Amazon. Like, love you, Southeast Toyota, for helping me get these vehicles, but I just don't recommend you guys paying for that screen protector. I know it probably comes standard with this Corolla from Southeast Toyota more times than not, the screen protector, but it's totally not worth that money. And you can always put your own on if you want a screen protector for way less money. All right, but I do like the touchscreen in here. Like I said, it's just so simple, basic. Is it ugly sticking out of the dash? Yeah, I'm in a Corolla. I don't care. All right, the vents are really high in here. I appreciate that because the AC does just an amazing job cooling this vehicle down. All right, I do have manual seats in here as well, which doesn't bother me because manual seats are just really quick to adjust. Okay, I can raise and lower the seats. I can tilt, I think I can, I can tilt this back cushion as well. So I have all the seat control I want. The passenger seat's fully manual as well, but I don't think it has height. I think it's just tilt for the upper cushion and slide for the bottom cushion, which is perfectly fine. All right, I've been in some cars, where you can't lower the seat, you're just kind of stuck at whatever base seat position that the manufacturer decides for you. At least the Corolla here, you can raise it or lower it depending on your height. So I have it slammed all the way down to the ground because I'm over 6 feet tall, but I can actually bring this seat back quite a bit. So I would say this car would probably fit for people who are 6'4" and below. All right, if you need more leg room than that, then, well, you're going to want to be in probably a bigger vehicle than a Corolla. But I know tall guys that drive Fiestas and stuff, so it all just depends on you know, what you are comfortable with. But this interior is the black option. There's also like a macadamia mocha, which is kind of like a beige and brown interior. And then there's also a gray interior, and the gray interior is the one I would be getting. Okay, gray interior would be the way to go, but it really doesn't matter because fabric breathes so well that even in hot Florida, I don't care that my seats are black, unless it was like a synthetic leather or a leather seat, which just get hot as the surfaces of the sun. Since this black fabric breathes so well, I don't care really what color it is. Do I prefer a lighter color to make it feel bigger in here, to make it feel airy? Yes, of course, but honestly, it's not a deal breaker. All right, now the question many of you might be asking, is it worth it to get a hybrid over this? And the answer is, I think it's about $1,600 or $1,800 on average to upgrade to the hybrid. In my opinion, yes, it's definitely better than this non-hybrid. Okay, the electric torque allows for a much more snappy experience in here. I don't have any dullness in the pedal at all like you have in this base Corolla. So yes, the hybrid's absolutely worth it. And not only is it a better driving experience, maybe not, like I said, God, it's just so slow. You really have to bury your foot. But not only is it a better driving experience in the hybrid, you get 50 miles per gallon. And on the top end, it's not quite as fast, but at all other times, unless your foot's buried, all other speeds, the Corolla hybrid is more perky and more responsive. Okay, the only time this is responsive is if your foot is all the way down here. The rest of the time it's a slog, like I mentioned. So Corolla hybrid, better driving experience, better fuel economy. It comes at a cost, and that cost is worth it. So let's head to the office. Let's look at Corolla LEs in my area. I think every trim level of the Corolla is worth it. Once you get to the top end, it gets a bit questionable though, especially on the hybrid, because you can just get a Camry LE and it's bigger, it's faster, and it gets better fuel economy, ironically, even though it has almost 100 horsepower more than the Corolla hybrid. So like the Camry hybrid LE is just amazing. You can get that for around $30,000, and that's where the XLE tops out here in the Corolla hybrid. But let's get into the office.
Looking at Corollas in my area, LE, I think LE's probably where most people should go if you're even considering the non-hybrid. Otherwise, just get the hybrid. So like you can see these for as low as $22,600, so about $1,000 off of MSRP. Mine was equipped for about $24,000, even though I had a couple add-ons to it from Southeast Toyota, the distributor. So $22,000 to $24,000, it's a good buy. The problem is the Corolla hybrid exists, and there's only about 1/10 of the amount of Corolla hybrids compared to normal Corollas. Toyota probably might, if I just had to take a guess why there's so few, maybe they're portioning them to ZEV states, or maybe they are limiting how much Corolla hybrid volume there is due to the fact that they all come from Japan, and Japan has 15% tariffs, something like that. So if we look at the lowest price of a Corolla hybrid LE, you can get them for $1,000 off of MSRP. Okay, so at $24,000, which that's an amazing buy. Love the Corolla hybrid. It's spunky powertrain, it's crazy fuel economy, and it's overall superior driving dynamics compared to the standard Corolla that I reviewed today. So where does the Corolla 2-liter non-hybrid fall? It's affordable, it's efficient, it's dull with its driving character, the dual transmission, and the interior is cheap. Okay, so where's it gonna fall? I think it's just a solid buy. I'd put it below the Kia K4 GT line. That vehicle was more fun to drive, more spacious, looks a lot better tech as well. Let me see what a GT4 line Kia K4 is in my area. There's about 1,000 Kia K4s in my area. This does not have a hybrid option. It will be coming with a hatchback soon, which is pretty neat. But you can get these for a lot less, like $20,000. I would buy this over a Corolla for $20,000 instead of spending $24,000 on a Corolla, unless you're getting the hybrid. Then I would take a hybrid over a K4. But with how low these are priced, it's a bigger car. And it just has, it's a little bit better, I would say overall. It's a little bit better of an experience compared to the Corolla from a driver's perspective. But if you wanted to get a little bit of zip, GT line turbo, you can get for $25K. And I think that's also a really good buy. Would I take the Corolla hybrid over it? Yeah, I'm just a little partial to the hybrids, but this is going to be faster than the Corolla hybrid. It's going to look a lot better, has more space, and better tech. So yeah, it's a Kia K4. I would say slightly better than the Corolla, but that's something to consider as well. Most Civics are a little bit too expensive right now, and the Civic hybrid is the way I would recommend it, and that gets closer to about $30,000. So overall, Corolla base LE, the cheapest Corolla in America, maybe not cheap enough when you have something like the K4 that is just selling in heaps right now for around $20,000 entry price, which undercuts Toyota's cheapest car. So I'll see you in the comments. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more car reviews, and special thanks again to Southeast Toyota and Germain Toyota of Naples for providing this review sample for me this week. And I'll probably get more from Germain Toyota of Naples in the near future. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.